Yeah, perhaps we will get started there. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural 2025 County Charter Review Committee meeting. My name is Ben Mills. I'm a Principal Management Analyst with the County Executive Office. My day-to-day duties typically include managing the capital program for the county, development impact fees, and provide department support and oversight for our land use and community services departments. And then other duties as assigned. And to that end, I am also your main point of contact for the department. And with that, because item number 5 is the election of the chair and vice chair, I'll actually run the meeting up until that point and then hand it over to the newly elected chair once that occurs. So with that, let's begin with a quick round of introductions, maybe just starting with meeting member Alessi and going the way through.
Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Troy Alessi. I guess I'm the young gun of the group. Do estate planning. I have a keen fascination with local government in particular. Stay closely in tune with the goings on of at least what is local in particular. I obviously have a tremendous amount of interest in what our county charter can provide for. I believe in it as, you know, a little bit mini constitution for us and our local government, obviously being able to strengthen and empower that the people who represent us as much as possible is, you know, my modus operandi. I obviously am hoping to be able to present a somewhat youthful perspective on what the long-term prospects are, since I have grown up here most of my life and I plan on continuing to be in this area for a good chunk of my life going forward, at least into the foreseeable future. So anything I can do to help, I'm hoping to do so.
Are you suggesting the rest of us aren't youthful?
Yes.
Well, I don't know. The board, the board of supervisor who nominated me obviously felt that was, you know, of some interest, but hopefully it won't be anywhat of a deterrent. I think we can all think alike.
Hi, my name's Einar Maish, which is a mouthful if you haven't heard it before. I'm an engineer by training. I worked for Placer County Water Agency for 34 years. I retired as general manager. So I'm familiar with how organizations, I think, should operate. And I've worked closely with the county for a lot of those years. And I think that this is going to be interesting. So I'm looking forward to it.
Larry Farina, not one of the younger ones.
I wasn't going to say how old I was.
No, I'm not going to say it either. But my background is in business is 40 years in the engineering construction business, 18 years owning my own company. Shut that down, went into construction management and land development consulting, and now I am just trying to be semi-retired doing land development consulting alone. I think this is going to be interesting too, and I'm looking forward to it. And I may be the only one, we'll see, but I was born and raised here, so I'm an Auburnite, lifelong Placer County resident. And Aaron.
Everybody, Dan Woodward. I was affiliated with the county, I guess you could say, as Placer, as District 4 Planning Commissioner. So and Clayton loves me for sure. And was on the commission with Nathan, in fact, which was great as well. And so I did that for 3.5 years, and then before that, actually during that as well, I ran a nonprofit for about 11 years. And before that, I worked for General Dynamics for a short period of time, and then was in the Air Force for about 29 years or so. And I look forward to working with everybody.
My name is Chris Jansen. I've been in Placer about 5 years, Greater Sacramento region, about 15 years back, about 2 decades ago, before getting some life experience in other states. Most of my background was, or I should say the first half of my career was with state government, mostly in the legislature, working for a few appointees after that. So have some background in dealing with organizational issues on a top tier level. The second half of my career, which I'm still doing today, is in management consulting. Worked for some larger firms, currently running my own firm. And I guess I'm here just because there's a little element of public policy nerdiness about me that likes to keep in the swing of things. So happy to have an opportunity to be part of this year.
Right. Nathan Herzog. I was on the planning commission for about 7 years. I chaired it. And I'm an educator. So I work at William Jessup University as the dean of the School of Education. I've been in education for about 25 years. Passionate about learning. I am on the planning commission for Lincoln City right now. I've been on there for about a year. And really involved with nonprofits. So been on many boards, passionate about the nonprofit space.
Hi, everyone. I'm Loretta Walker. I have a prior background in technology, public policy, legislative affairs, and my educational background is marketing and sales. This is my second term on this charter committee. I was on the previous one. I am really involved in the community. At one point in time, I was on 12 boards, and I believe in allowing the community to have input.
Go next.
Yep.
Clayton Cook, County Council's Office, official titles, Assistant County Council. It's been a good amount of time, still am, council and planning commission. Also represented county on creative land use, transactions, governmental matters, elections, quarter, public works. And I also served as the counsel for this charter review committee. For the 2019. So I'm looking forward to this, and I also should mention, hoping you're giving me a lot of homework to do in terms of research and figuring out kind of the what's required, what you're looking for.
Great. Anybody from the public? You introduce and provide a comment? No, this is actually on item number 1. So this is just introductions. My understanding is clear to the board with like public comment after each item. So
I'll just say Lana Bell with Henry. Oh, you're over.
Williams, Placer County Office of Education, Deputy Superintendent.
Allison Jackson from the County Executive Office.
wonderful. And with that, the board is requesting that we do a roll call vote to make sure that we have all committee members present.
Walker. Here. Bertha.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Woodward.
Here. Here.
Here.
Valenti.
Here.
Moving on to item number 2, this is public comment. This is specific for issues that are not on the agenda. Is there anybody from the public that would like to provide a comment to the committee?
I can do it right here. Or do I have to spin it? Donna Dello, 25-year Henry homeowner. My comments may or may not be on point, but many of us feel powerless with preserving our way of life. As you look through the charter, I urge you to make changes that give us more power as communities to have a say how we grow. Development is going to happen. We all know that, but it should be a benefit. Today, we see no benefits in my tiny town of Penryn. The county is proposing to more than double our population with low-income housing and military-style barracks. There's no access to anything, not even a grocery store. Board is most certainly going to try to eliminate our community plan in the general plan update. Our community plans were crafted by us, the residents of these communities. Is there any way of making community plans a requirement in the charter? We would request that you make that happen. We want to keep our unique towns unique and not get plowed over with single kind of growth. Community plans help us keep our legacy homes, our lives, our towns from being absorbed into the urban sprawl that the county is promoting and approving project after project after project. Thank you so much for considering this really important piece of us, and I say us in all caps. We are unique. The state chose to invest our money and our lives in something that is vanishing without having any say. So we request you amend the charter, to give our voices more power. And then one more thing on Broad, we sold out a sign, there's 400 signs in Penryn right now, and I'm going through Loomis and going through Newcastle and everywhere for the Hopeway project that's proposal is coming. The density is so high. It would almost double our population, so the whole town, we have 350 doors in Penryn houses. And we've sold out, yesterday we sold out 100. So that's like 400 sold, that's a whole town. So just help us, somebody help us, to make sure it makes sense. It's appropriate. Yeah.
Any more public comment?
I'm your and thank you for that. I just comment here. I'm not going to I would like to charter setting term limits for the supervisor. Right now, they can go on forever, but I think we should have the two term limit like our governor. And I also want to say that thank you very much. I look forward to
Any public comment online?
Just so everyone is aware.
Greetings, committee. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So that,
Okay.
wait just one second.
Diane-
This meeting is set up for in-person attendance. We do have an ADA accommodation. That's the reason why this is needed.
Am I allowed to make a comment or no?
I need you to be clear on the way that that's set up.
Yeah.
Yes, Ms.
Yes. Proceed or no?
Yes.
Okay. Diane Louise Alessi from Christian Valley Park Community Services District. I have a coalition, which you see the symbol for, but I also reside on the board of directors for Christian Valley Park Community Services District. And I've been extremely vigilant about my participation in both planning and the Board of Supervisors meeting, and I'm feeling privileged to be able to witness your first meeting today to do this review. From the very beginning, when Placer County was issued the RENA 6 cycle numbers, I had been pushing the county to do a challenge against the state. When you're reviewing this charter, you have to keep in mind that it is our baby constitution, and it was hard fought to carve out the home rule status, not general rule. The home rule, of course, if you know your history, was 30 years in a constitutional convention to come about so that they could put Sacramento in check and to stop telling us how to zone or permit on our land so that we had some land use that fit our way of life. That has since been thrown out the window by Governor Newsom's wave of a pen with no proof that the numbers we were assigned have any validity and actual fact of a statewide concern. So when you're doing this review, I'm hoping that you will enforce language that forces this board to challenge the state on these numbers when there is no proof. You can state it all day long. It doesn't make it true that it's a statewide concern. So that definitely does. It's still going on for Huntington Beach. I really commend everybody and hope that you all find a real synergy here and find the county its way through, but preserve what the county was about when I moved here in 1965. And that's my son there joining you today with the same last name. So with that, I will yield and thank you for your time.
Okay, on to item number 3. County Council is going to provide a conduct of the Charter Review Committee summary.
You've already seen part of this, but these meetings are the Brown Act. As to what that means is that the consistent action that you're allowed to take has to be listed on the agenda. That agenda has to be posted 72 hours in advance. That also means that there is public comment at any portion of the items that are listed on the agenda. It also means that when it comes to discussion of items, you're somewhat limited according to the Brown Act rules. I know some of you are familiar with this from the Planning Commission. Others may have had time on public hearing bodies. But essentially, since we have 7 members of this commission, that means that a majority of this commission cannot meet to discuss items that are subject to this committee without having a noticed meeting in advance. So you are certainly allowed to speak to other committee members outside of this room, but you are limited in how many you can speak to. And I would say you certainly are free to speak to another committee member, maybe even 2 committee members, but outside of that, then you get to that point of reaching the majority of this committee. And I would also suggest that if you are speaking to other committee members outside of this room, that you ask them who they spoke with. Because there is a Brown Act violation. If you speak with somebody who's also spoken with 2 other members, then you have essentially a communication of the majority of this committee.
So, I've been battling attorneys my whole life. I'm sorry. Speak with was the phrase that you used. And I think that the correct phrase is discuss commission business.
Correct.
It's
Anything,
not speak with. You can communicate a one-way communication. You can,
you can talk about anything that's not the subject matter. of
right,
this.
there you go.
Yes,
Thank you very
can
much.
Talk about the weather.
We can talk about when the next meeting's gonna be.
Yes, I do
Yeah.
think when you start talking about the
Yeah,
committee meetings, you
yeah.
start getting
Close.
close to that
Yeah.
line of.
I know, close is, yeah, I don't want to go over the line. I just want to be clear. Thank you.
So, yeah, just be cognizant of who you speak with.
Regarding the public coming up and raising a non-agenda item, it's my experience, there's different levels of what engagement is allowed. Are we allowed clarifying questions versus policy questions? I hate it when somebody comes up and they have something to say and, you kind of want a little bit of understanding of that versus turning it into a policy discussion. Where can we draw that line here?
Yeah, that's really drawn by the chair of the committee and the committee itself.
Right.
We don't have a ton of public comment here,
Yeah.
a little bit more of an informal venue. I certainly think it's fair game. If somebody shows up and has spent the time to come here and provide comment, you certainly can ask questions or ask them to explain further, whatever you need in terms of information to help you. I think it's totally fine.
I have a question, just kind of piggybacking on what he was mentioning about public comment. 3 topics were kind of brought up and you asked for homework. And so can you help us understand the existing community plan authority? And then I think also supervisor term limits and the feasibility around that. And then, sorry,
No.
challenging state numbers and its validity. Those are kind of the 3. Is that what you guys heard?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
Yes,
curious
so
to
we'll
know.
get into that. That's actually number 6 on our agenda are the items that we will discuss. And I think we had a public comment generally on items not on the agenda, but those were really on kind of what was going to be exciting. So we will get to the meat of that. And yes, I appreciate the homework. I took note of those as well. And I do have some additional thoughts on that, but we'll leave these.
Yeah, I was just trying to make sure that we would have a discussion about what is under our purview of the charter, because a lot of issues are gonna come up and they don't fall under the
Yeah.
jurisdiction of the charter.
Yes,
that's
certainly my plan.
Yeah,
That's part of whatever.
thank you.
So also on the Brown Act, before we get away from that completely, just also be aware too that any of your communication could take written form. So emails, text messages, all of those, not only could that be Brown Act communication, that also is susceptible to Public Record Act requests. So to the extent that you email on a topic that's being discussed today or text message about it, you may get the county may get an inquiry from the public about the content of that text message, and we may be reaching out to you about asking for those emails, text messages. So just be cognizant of that. In terms of process for the Charter Review Committee, this committee convenes every 5 years. You're tasked with making a recommendation to the board on potential charter amendments. And you can take as long as is necessary to do that. The requirements require at least 2 meetings, but you're not limited by that. If you decide you need to meet more, you're able to do so. That is really the purview of the charter. You will need to ultimately make a decision on what to provide as a recommendation, and because this is a Brown Act body, you are going to have to take a majority vote on what that recommendation is. So that means you at least have 1 more meeting set in front of you to make that vote, and maybe multiple meetings. How this has worked in the past is that the committee has put together a whole bunch of ideas, and then staff has prepared kind of a draft recommendation based on those ideas, and then brought it back to the committee, and the committee said, okay, that looks good, or we want to tweak this, we want to edit this before it goes to the board. So you do have a couple meetings just in terms of lead time to get that approval done. Also, when it comes to voting, I would say this loosely follows Robert's Rules of Order. If you have an idea, I would suggest just make it and then suggest we vote on it. We don't need to go formal motion second. But I do think you need to make a decision on this committee. It has to be done by a vote. So we have to get to that, raise your hand if you agree, point for any of the decisions of the committee.
Okay.
Outside that, I can go into the charter a little bit, but you got over.
Yeah, I got it. Appreciate that. So we'll quickly move on to item number 4. I'm going to provide a quick overview of what the Charter County is. Then go over some of the general requirements Clayton touched on. Most of it I was going to speak on, so I'll be brief. And then just overall general section. So starting with the overview of the Charter Counties, there's 2 distinct forms of governance for the California counties. There's general law counties and there's charter counties. General law counties are governed by state law and are dictated by the number, appointment, and election procedures for county officials. They must also adhere to state laws that restrict greater local control. In contrast, a charter county has the flexibility to adopt and amend or repeal their charters with majority vote approval of the people, allowing for greater local control and self-governance. There's 15 charter counties out of the 58 counties in California. The Placer County Charter was approved in 1980, and it guides the organizational structures, duties, and responsibilities of elected and appointed officials. The charter requires the formation of a charter review committee every 5 years, as Clayton mentioned, to review, evaluate, and make recommendations for the amendments to the charter. So this committee consists of 7 individuals, 1 from each district, and then 2 at large seated as well. Clayton already mentioned the fact that 2 public meetings are required. Once those are completed and recommendations have been provided to staff, those recommendations will ultimately go to the board, and the board has the discretion to approve or deny any of the recommendations that the committee makes. If the board approves any of those recommendations from changes to the charter, they would be included as a ballot measure and included within the selection cycle. And it would take a majority vote of the people to amend those portions of the charter. As far as general process of this meeting, the way Clayton and we kind of discussed this a little bit. This initial meeting, it's kind of an information gathering meeting, primarily to identify and discuss any sections of the charter that the committee would like staff to evaluate and provide a follow-up analysis based on those proposed changes, which is item number 6 in the agenda. Anybody can provide requested changes to the charter, including the public, county staff, and committee members. And then at the end of the discussion today, what I plan to do is recap all the areas which you would like for us to do our homework on, and then just ensure that we have that correct through a vote, in which you can add additional items or remove items if the majority of the committee don't see them fit. I also plan on sending out a letter to all county department heads, informing them that the charter committee has commenced, and ask and request for any potential proposed revisions that those department heads may have to the charter. And then with that, maybe I'll hand it back over to Clayton if there's anything else you'd like to hit on.
Could I ask one question before you do that? So you said at the beginning of your comments, and I just didn't write it all down because I couldn't get it all, but it ended with essentially elected and appointed officials. So it sounded to me like you were describing the scope of the charter when you said that sentence. Could you either repeat that or provide some clarity on what the scope of the charter is supposed to be?
So I can provide a general outline and then hand it over to council for probably more. The charter guides the roles and responsibilities of both elected and appointed officials. And it does include things within the charter related to their official duties, whether or not they are elected positions or they're appointed positions. And there's the potential to amend those sorts of positions or some of those positions. It also dictates things like the salary of the Board of Supervisors, how the supervisors and other elected officials meet. It also includes the fact that they do require to be part of the county, live within the county in order to serve in those positions. So
Okay.
there's kind of overall encompassing of the roles and responsibilities and structure of the appointed.
So to make a change to the charter or to amend the charter or to add something to the charter, that's been done by ballot measure since 1984.
That's correct.
So the purpose of the charter is to outline the responsibilities of elected and appointed officials. And yet the charter has things in it like what will happen to somebody if they interfere with a sheriff's working dog. Or it has specific descriptions of what will happen if, or it actually outlines specific segments of roads that there are exclusions or restrictions on. Is that, does that make sense?
No, the charter doesn't identify.
Is this the whole charter
I
we're
must
looking
have
at?
been looking
Yes,
at
The
that.
full-
Yes.
Yeah, I think you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then I was looking at something incorrect on the online then.
So it is a little confusing.
Well, clearly.
Click on county
Mhm.
code.
Yeah.
The charter is the first section
Right.
of county code,
Yeah.
Ah,
but it also includes all the other sections of county code.
okay, I got it. Well, that's
So,
helpful.
and if I could, oh, go ahead and then.
Well, go ahead. I've got a follow up to his, but go, please go ahead.
Okay, so, probably the best place to start is the beginning of this. The California Constitution is what allocates the authority for counties to have charters. And the same as cities as well. And that's the handout that you just got, is the section in the California Constitution that provides the allowance which the what county members can have. And it's Article 11, Section 4. This is important because the Constitution is actually, California Constitution is actually a little bit more limiting on counties than it is on cities.
Yeah.
Cities have a broader rule of self-governance. Counties have only the authority that's designated under this section. So, as you look through this section, if it fits within this section, then that is an area that we can put in the charter or the charter can talk about. You do run into an issue where if you have a situation that is outside of this, that the state law has already exercised jurisdiction by implementing a statute or regulation on it. In that instance, that statute is something that the county cannot overrule. We don't have authority to. The only authority that we have as a county is based on what the Constitution has delegated to us. So this should be your framework in terms of the categories of things that can be in the charter.
Okay.
And I would say generally, it's about the process and procedure of operations of the county. Election, compensation, terms, removal, salary of the governing board, election or appointment of the officials, both elected and appointed. Compensation terms, removal of county officers, power and duty of officers, consolidation and segregation of county offices. There may be instances that elected officials is one of them. If there are statutory requirements for elected officials, that may be an area where we cannot include something in the charter that supersedes or overrules that state law. But it is a little bit nuanced when it comes to the role of the county with respect to the Constitution and the authority to override it, because there have been courts that have said if it fits within this section and there is a state law on it,
that this section actually supersedes that state law, and the county
right.
can include language in the charter that supersedes the state law, only when it comes to these categories, though.
Mhm.
So, one of the situations that has come up already and will come in the future, is the affordable housing, because that's a topic on people's minds.
Yes.
There is state law on affordable housing. Affordable housing is not one of the categories that is specifically included in here. So that is likely, at least the courts have decided at this point, and I refer to the city of Huntington Beach because they have gone through the trial courts and court of appeals on this.
Mhm.
That is an area where the courts have said basically that's not a charter issue.
Yeah.
That is an issue that state law has clearly provided statutory guidance on, and that supersedes anything that the county can say because it's not one of these areas in the charter. And so I provide that, I know there's gonna be topic on it and there may be discussion on it, but that's kind of the framework is the.
So how is the Constitution here on subsection D? I'm looking at California, the performance of functions required by statute. That's pretty wide open category right there. You can,
I agree. That section, and this is where it gets to, I guess, a bit of interpretation.
okay.
Required by statute for the rules that are also included in here. That's not any statute. That's the way it's been interpreted. And I only give you that background on the court opinions to the extent that there is an interest in kind of pushing the envelope, challenging that. My job is to give you kind of the framework of the court opinions and then yours is the policy decision on kind of what to do with it.
So let me throw an example out. Let's just throw an example, not a policy statement here. If there was a desire to have a concentration of county government stay in one geographic location, and there was a proposal here to say not more than 40% of county operations defined as such shall be outside the city limits of Auburn, for example. That would be appropriate. We might not, I mean, at the end of that would be eligible for the charter. It might not be appropriate at the end of the day, but that could be eligible because it's for the performance of the county.
Right, yeah, those are all ones, when we get to this gray area,
Yeah.
those are ones where I probably have research assignments to see if there's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
case law that's touched on it, but that to me is governance of the county, so that would fall within an area of the charter and potentially something that you can require in the charter.
But we can't say Penryn shall be forever protected from low income housing.
Right. And the problem with that is you have a lot of state laws on affordable housing.
Sure.
Mandating certain requirements.
If I may kind of touch upon this, I believe if we want to be able to take in some of these kind of semi outside of our purview for the charter requests, like what was focused on there, powers and duties of the board in particular, if we were to construct that in a way that empowers them to be able to stand up more to state numbers that come down the pike to them, is that potentially an avenue under which we can prospectively make suggestions, so that way they feel like they have more power under the current charter, because that would be superseding, as it says here in subsection G of section 4, to be superseded by said charter. So if the charter is amended to give them greater power and duty to the local community for their desire to maintain their existing identity.
So I would say potentially, it depends on, I guess, how that's phrased and what kind of
Right.
powers and duties it is and how it relates to the state law. Certainly, powers and duties of supervisors is subject to the charter, but to the extent that you're seeking to give them a power that is contradicted by state law that's not subject to this charter, that's not within this area, then that's probably an area that is too far in terms of.
Right. Well,
So-
let's say
So
that.
devil in the details.
Yeah. Obviously, like say RENA is a particular act that is saying that it's a statewide interest. How does that ultimately affect what is a local governance? And to say that what a statewide concern is a statewide concern for us.
Yeah, so the RENA numbers and the requirements for affordable housing are all creatures of state law. Those are those mandates and requirements that are imposed on the county and the mandatory rezones. Those are all clearly defined in state law. So they're not ones that in the charter that we would be legally permissible for us to then say you don't have to follow.
I mean, supervisors have the authority as right now to ask county council to challenge the state anyway, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
they can, I mean, they can take us, we could take the state to court if we needed to.
Well, I think where Troy's headed is if you could take those cases where local jurisdictions were less successful and find a way to construct your charter to be more successful. There's probably
100%.
not a lot of room there.
I totally agree,
Yeah.
but you know, I think that's what a lot of, you know, the desire for us to meet is about, is there any avenues for us to bolster rather than maybe even go, because we can go the other direction where we just say, let's get rid of the charter. But is there something here that obviously provides for the public and their concerns to be channeled through us, so that way the board actually feels like they do have the duty and the power to do what's in the best interest of what the public conversation is, because I feel like they obviously have a lot of pressures that come down from Sacramento to them. And we need to make them feel comfortable, like, you know, we can control our own fate.
So there was a case that came out in 2023 that I think might be helpful for the discussion, because that, at least for me, seeing the kind of the real example in the court of hold is something that I can provide you as a definite okay. This was a charter amendment that got upheld by the court as being valid. A requirement that the county allocate at least 10% of its locally generated unrestricted revenues in the general fund to direct community investments such as youth programs, job training, rental assistance, and affordable housing. So that the court found was allocated enough to operations that it was permissible in the charter to designate basically uncommitted general fund dollars, a maximum of 10% to local community. So that's an example of operations that the charter can include something of that then would be upheld, that is in contradiction with state law. And a lot of that depends on, do you have an area that state law is clearly kind of provided guidance and direction on or not? When it comes to use of general fund dollars, that is not in state law. Provided directive. So that might help you in terms of fashioning what you might think in terms of charter amendment.
Possibly homework. Is there a way that we could get possibly like maybe the last 5 committees worth of recommendations made to the board? So that way we have a general idea of what they
Yeah, we
were
did get
attempting.
those.
We got the minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
In an email.
Yeah.
Okay, much appreciated. Thank you.
I have a question.
I see, really
Um,
nice spreadsheet.
Oh, yeah, plus the minutes.
And the yacht's got the folders.
Changing topics, schedule. I'm gonna look at Loretta too, because you've gone through this before. We're 6 months behind the last charter committee's schedule. And we have to, I mean, there's an end date here where we have to, the Board of Supervisors has taken action in order to get this on the next ballot. And we've got to make our final decision in time for the Board of Supervisors to get it on the next ballot. And I'd like to know what our deadline is to have final resolution of our recommendation.
Can we do that for the next 2 ballots? Just, you know, you probably got a spring ballot and a November ballot, right?
Yeah.
It'd be a-
So we do have an item for future meeting schedules that, I don't know if this discussion is in, but I'll give you just a brief precursor. The requirement for the charter meetings every 5 years is convening. They don't provide a deadline as to when the decision has to be made. Now, that being said, the clerk recorder election official indicated that they need roughly 5 to 6 months from the time of board action prior to the election to get all of the paperwork and processing done. Right now, there's no election currently scheduled in Placer County for this year.
So the next election that comes up would be the primary on June 2nd of next year. Or the general election in November of 2026. So if you work back 6 months from either of those, if you can come to a decision prior to the end of this calendar year. You're probably fine in terms of timing. But again, you can have as many meetings as you want. Certainly, you could do this in 2 meetings and wrap it up. But I would say if you just ballpark that, for sure, a recommendation would be coming from this committee. Because it then has to go to the board. We've got a month and a half going to the board. And if the board wants edits or tweaks or something like that, on another 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So I would say if you plan for the end of the calendar year, by getting this wrapped up, that's probably.
In order to get on the November ballot.
On the June.
ballot.
Certainly if the discussion and the committee meetings carry on past that, then we're looking at. Having to get it wrapped up by May of next year. To make the November.
Well, if the clerk, if the recorder needs 6 months and the board of supervisors need 2 months. I know you said 6 weeks. Oh, 5. I thought you said 5 to 6.
I have down my notes 5.
Oh, okay, okay, 5. Okay,
So
so
we need to have at least one meeting at the lake, so how many people are skiers here?
Well,
I suppose.
yeah, so the question I was gonna ask is, as a group, we're gonna have to decide if we're gonna, because we went out to every district.
Yeah, and so that's maybe
Yeah.
wait
Okay,
on that for the
okay.
future meeting schedule and let's just.
Yeah.
I think the next item up would be election. of
Okay.
the chair and vice chair and, before I do that though, we did kind of skip over it for items 3 and 4. I know. There are still some members of the public here and one online. Would any of them like to provide comments on those items before we move to election of chair and vice chair?
See no one at this time.
So
Yeah, no, you're good. So let's move on with item number 5 on the agenda, which is the election of the chair and vice chair. This to the committee, discussion and potential motions.
the basic format would just be leading this meeting for the chair and then the chair is not here, then the vice chair would lead the meeting. To the extent there are any kind of further meetings, public meetings, then those would default to the chair to handle. And that chair would have the responsibility of setting the requirements for public comment beforehand. Dealing with the structure, moving through the agenda items, all of that stuff.
Anyone preferential?
I think Nathan just nominated.
I think Nathan should do it.
Yeah, I think you just got elected.
We got nominated for sure.
Is that a violation of the Brown Act right there?
no, we're in a public meeting.
I believe Nathan said he's sat on probably the most boards out of
Well,
everybody,
Nathan
correct? Or
was,
is it
Nathan
Loretta?
was the chair
Right.
of the planning commission.
Yeah.
But
And Loretta was on the,
I'm not
Loretta was-
interested. I was the vice chair. I'm not interested.
Okay,
okay.
yeah, I mean, I'm happy to do that.
Yes,
I'll
I know.
I'll nominate Nathan if we're doing it that way.
I'll second.
We're done.
No, you gotta vote.
Need a vote.
I vote
Sounds
aye.
like,
Call for a vote on
Rodney's
that.
request for Nathan to be the chair. So can we do a roll call vote, please?
Yes.
Herzog,
Do you vote for myself?
You have to vote.
You could say no.
I'm gonna abstain.
Yes,
yes,
I think there's a conflict of
Yes.
interest with that, right?
it's the one time you
Yes.
can have a conflict.
Yes.
It's like an interview. You get to brag about
Alright,
yourself.
then moving forward with vice chair.
Would you be willing to be?
I'm not interested in the
Oh.
vice chair. It's a lot of work for both.
you're talking everybody else out.
She's scaring candidates off over there.
You said you wanted to have some involvement. I nominate you.
I won't turn it down.
Okay.
A second?
Greg, roll call votes.
who is that for? I'm sorry.
Right.
For Alessa, sure.
Thank you. Captain Walker,
Yes.
Herzog,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes,
Woodward,
Yes,
Farina,
Yes.
Maish,
Yes.
All right, congratulations, Chair Herzog.
I just have to say.
I'll be handing over the agenda to you at this point, which is the discussion of potential charter issues for consideration.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you, Ben and Clayton, for your insight. I think we're going to move to committee discussion of potential charter issues for consideration. Are you going to lead this conversation, Ben?
You know, I did not intend to. I really
Okay.
wanted to open it up to the committee themselves.
Okay.
And then hear from the public.
Okay, well, we can start with folks on the committee here that are bringing issues and topics. And so, Loretta, can we start with you?
I have none.
Okay, we will move this way.
I don't have any particular, but I have two questions. One is council bringing any issues for us on behalf of the county? And second, is there anything going on in the state legislature that we should be concerned about from the standpoint of our charter authority or, you know, obviously there's tons of things going on that the county cares about. I'm not talking about department program policy, but more relative to the scope of this committee that we should at least be aware of.
So for the first part, is council bringing forward? Our office is not bringing forward. But there may be other county departments that are interested in changes, yeah, and other divisions of the county.
Is there a timeline for them to respond or?
So after this,
You know.
committee, I intend to send out that letterhead that I mentioned to all the department heads, and then give them 30 days to respond.
Right.
So
Okay.
we can
Okay.
discuss that more, with the future meeting schedule, as make sure it matches up where I bring forward all those potential issues that the department brings up prior to that.
Well, and presumably there's a county review of that before it comes forward. I imagine it's probably not.
Depending on how the structure works, I can always.
One department head proposes the elimination of the other department. head.
I would intend to present you with all the
Yeah.
comments received and then.
Okay.
committee will deliberate.
Thank you.
You had a question about legislative changes. I'm not aware of legislative changes, but I also don't track them very closely because.
Peter tangled in the
I
wires.
tend to really become involved. And then get involved in terms of analyzing them and assessing them. So there may be legislative changes that are kind of pending out there. I will certainly look into it. I haven't looked on charter changes. and all. But yes, so I'll look into it, but I'm not aware of any. In terms of existing law that is either reducing or eliminating charter authority, and there isn't any. Still have the same authority that kind of identify.
Yeah. Sure. I imagine it's pretty rare, but
I will say though. Charter authority and the scope of what charters are allowed is an evolving topic of law. There's a case law that came out as recently as last year, whether charter amendments were permissive. So that means it's not settled. There is a gray area that is getting defined.
and I would amend my request to include judicial action as well. I understand that LA County is considering going from 5 members to 7. So may not particularly be relevant to us or our interest, but that means a door just opened up on county governance. And you never know what happens, what goes through those doors when they start negotiating things. So again, don't know how aggressive of a proposal that is, but
Yeah, certainly the number of supervisors is
yeah.
fair game. That has been discussed. That was discussed last charter review committee as well, in terms of expanding that number.
In the last request I'd have here in this point is I'm interested to know if any counties do have term limits on their supervisors. You know, I know you're gonna look into that, but I'm not familiar with that, that any do, but maybe.
And actually, I did the research last time and I happen to have my notes for it, so I can go through it. This is as of 2020, so it may need updating. We were able to find 12 of the 14 or 15 charter counties. Of the 12 that we were able to research, 6 of them have term limits, 6 do not, so even split. Those with term limits range between 2 or 3 consecutive terms. And some have a provision that says you can wait 4 years and then start another consecutive term.
In general law has no provision at all for that, right? Yeah.
No general provision. Closest one, Sacramento County has no term limit. El Dorado County requires 2 consecutive terms, 4 years each, and then waiting 4 years. Alameda, Butte County, Fresno County, San Bernardino County,
Tehama County, term limits. San Diego requires 2 terms. San Mateo requires 3 consecutive, Santa Clara is 3 consecutive. and just 2 consecutive. And Nathan, I wanted to go back to you had a couple questions about community plan authority and
Yeah.
state membership. I did touch a bit on that. The authority provided community plans is provided by state statute, so that is also something that there may not be a lot of area for the charter to provide something that contradicts the community plan authority.
Yeah, I know it's part of the planning commission too. There's an authority there. Yeah. Were you finished?
Yeah.
I think, is it okay if we kind of just go down?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
guys
yeah.
kind of share? Okay. Dan?
Yeah, so I read about 120 pages extra. So,
Bless you.
and I have to
Yeah.
tell you, the first paragraph I have here is, this seemed like a odd mishmash of regulations guidance from the very tactical to the ridiculously high level. And now I know why. So whatever link you sent me, thanks very much for that, Ben. I will relentlessly
Yeah,
pursue you for the next 6 months until I make you miserable.
If it helps, I started doing the same thing before I realized what it was.
Oh my God, I was like,
This is really IT's fault.
why is this in the charter? I'm thinking, what the heck are we doing? All right, so. Yeah, I'll tell you what.
He's got it.
So,
He's got it.
yeah, actually, I do have one thing that I mentioned to you offline, but these I think are applicable. There's only really 2. The term limits question is a good one as well, and that's also applicable. And there are pros and cons, of course, and I think we'd all agree with that. But this first one is has to do with the way we pay our supervisors. And I know this came up in 2020 or whatever. And it was approved in 2015, et cetera, and all that stuff. But I gotta say, anytime we remove the authority and responsibility of the people of Placer County to make decisions about things that happen in Placer County,
Mhm.
it seems like a red flag should go up. And so in this particular case, unless I read the wrong link, which apparently is possible, we currently pay our supervisors based on the average salary of the people in Sacramento County, Nevada County, and El Dorado County,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes. I had
Okay.
the same comment. Yeah.
Okay, so I applaud Sacramento County's transparency, because what I found online was pretty transparent about what they do and how they do it. Unfortunately, I was not able to locate much information on Nevada County, nor was able to locate much information on El Dorado County. But this was kind of concerning to me, to be honest about it. And some of this data may in fact be incorrect, or needs to be reviewed and considered. But we are probably at a point now where our supervisors are being compensated at well above the state average, I think. Let me be clear about this, though. I know one of the supervisors obviously very well. She works her tail off, and she deserves to be compensated properly. And I'm not saying anything there, but I think if you ask the question of the voters, would you want 1/3, let's say, because this is all I was able to locate, of the salary in Placer County for a supervisor to be determined based on the Superior Court judge payment or salary in Sacramento County, which is currently how they tack their supervisor pay? I think the answer would be decidedly different than if you said, I want to take the average of these 3 counties. That's a simple way to say it, but if you look at the underpinnings of how they determine their salaries, it's a little more complicated. Also concerning is this, and this is June 24, so pretty current. The Sacramento County Grand Jury has reported significant errors in the process of approving a pay raise for County Board of Supervisors, including incorrect financial figures and a failure to adhere to state law regarding effective dates. The grand jury found that the board was misinformed about the cost of the increase, and that the approved ordinance contained an incorrect effective date. So essentially, we are pinning our supervisors' salaries to the judgment of supervisors and other things in 3 different counties. That's bizarre to me. I'll also point out that this June 24 comment from the grand jury in Sacramento County refers to a pay raise that the Sacramento supervisors approved, which took them from whatever the number was, 35% to 75% of the Superior Court judges in Sacramento County. What in the world are we doing? It's my question. So I really think we need to take a look at this. Now, one final quick comment on this and I'll shut up. I can see how we got here. No voter wanted to approve a raise for a supervisor, and no supervisor wanted to vote for a raise for a supervisor. So we had to figure something out. And in 2015, we said, let's do this. And you know what? That's well-intentioned, probably was logical at the time, but I think we need to reevaluate this now because clearly it's gone awry, at least in one of the 3 counties. And I suspect the other ones need some looking at as well. So
Okay.
is it possible to come up with something else? I don't know the answer to that. Smart minds have to come up with that and consider options. I would say this: if you take the current salary of a supervisor and you peg it to the inflation rate and you give them a pay raise every year, let's say, based on the COLA for whatever, Social Security or whatever, then that's probably pretty reasonable. And every 4 years, we get approval from the voters to continue that process or do something else. That's a way to bring it back to the county. Maybe a stupid idea, but there may be other ideas out there that are smarter. So
Dan, are you okay with interjected questions as a discussion as you go through?
from everybody except you, because I've dealt with you before.
Yeah, I know. It's not for me.
Oh, okay.
So,
He did just give
oh,
me a
so
little-
that's an open door. That's an open door.
I had 2. One is, I don't know if this is still true, but trial court judges used to be, their salaries were set by the state. I don't know if that changed with trial court funding, but that's another added element to consider there. How much are our soups making right now? Just straight up salary, do we know?
Low 6 figures, however, I don't know the exact. I want to say like 110, 120.
Yeah,
Somewhere
okay.
in that range. However, I could be off, so we can get back to
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So I don't know what the right number is. I just think we should bring this back to the county potentially.
Yeah.
And let us do the ciphering on this.
So your concern is we sort of spun this off to the control of the 3 surrounding counties.
Right.
Which apparently are not necessarily doing it very
They're
well.
not
Yeah, yeah.
necessarily right.
But it's pretty common to look
Yeah.
at, because look in the business world, you look at neighboring CEOs
Yes.
and other functions.
Yeah.
Especially when they're all in the same state, so to speak. I mean, California's a high cost state.
Mhm.
I was just looking at something for starting a business. And I was looking at how they look at S Corp. And they look at the average of CEOs in that industry. So I think the methodology is not too far off, but I appreciate how you presented it.
Mhm.
Well, I'd like to see if we can find a way to bring it back to the voters. Now that I think we've probably made a corrective action, like in 2013, they were probably getting $35,000 a year, some
Yeah.
crazy thing like
Yeah.
that. We fixed that. Now maybe we need to figure out how to bring it home.
Well, it'd
That's
be
all.
interesting to see what the other counties, your peers over in the other counties think about their process.
So nothing makes me,
It would be useful to at least know what the other counties pay their supervisors so that we can see all
Yeah.
Yeah,
3 that we're
exactly.
comparing.
yeah, if you can do that. Like I said, Nevada, I couldn't find anything in Nevada County and I couldn't find anything in El Dorado County, but nothing
Yeah,
makes
sure.
me happier than giving
Transparency.
Clayton something to do.
Stone
So
knives, bearskin
I feel
rugs.
good
Yeah, yeah.
already. The second one is a little bit, it has some similarities, I suppose. The phrase in here about filling a board of supervisors position that is vacated was interesting to me as well. And I think this was discussed in 2022, if I recall. I just don't see this as pragmatic. If a vacancy occurs in the Board of Supervisors, it shall be filled by the unanimous vote of the remaining members. And if they shall fail to make the appointment within 30 days of the occurrence of such a vacancy, then such a vacancy shall be filled by the governor. I don't know whether that's practical or not, but it seems pretty impractical to me. So really what we're saying is and by the way, I don't consider this implausible. I mean, a person has a medical problem, person has a family issue, just says, look, I gotta get out of this. Or, worse. It's not an implausible scenario. And what you're saying is that 4 other supervisors have 30 days to find somebody from a district that they don't own who wants to be a supervisor. And they're going to do it, or we turn it over to Gavin Newsom.
Yeah.
That's just hard for me to visualize.
I wonder if that's state law.
No,
Somewhere.
This is an area within the charter, and we did discuss it before. I have my notes from 2019.
Yeah.
Of the 12 other charter counties that we found, San Francisco's included because it's a city and a county at the same time. 3 of them have board filled vacancies. 5 go by election. 2 have the governor filled, which is what we do, and 2 have a combination of election and the board. So there is room to change that. That's certainly something we could get into.
Yeah.
Most all the ones that have a board filled vacancy, they have at least 60 days.
Okay.
30 days is fairly quick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially if
absolutely.
Gotta get to a board. Gotta
Right.
Noticing of the agenda a week beforehand, so you're really at like a week and a half to 2 weeks.
And we actually did pull this off just a couple of years ago.
Oh, really?
Supervisor Gustis.
Yes, was appointed because the former supervisor took a state position with Newsom and vacated the seat.
Oh,
And-
so it worked.
And it worked. That's how Supervisor Gustafson ended up in her seat. So yeah, it does work. And I understand your concerns and I would share some of them. I would see the 30 days maybe is a short time, but I can also understand I would call it the threat of the governor appointing is something that gets people off their tail and get something done. Because in our county, that is not going to be looked at kindly. So, I'm not sure that I don't know if you call it the carrot or stick, but if that's needs to be removed, I think perhaps an additional time would be good. But they did do it successfully, so it can be done.
Okay. Well, just that's food for thought as topics to discuss later.
Sure.
But that was
Very good.
And that's it.
Okay, Larry.
And then the other, I was going to comment on the salary issues, I was around for the years and years that we went through that debacle as well. And you're right, this formula was something that was contrived essentially to get the voters to approve a pay raise. Because the voters kept shutting it down and our supervisors, you were accurate, I believe they were working for $35,000 a year when they should have been getting paid at least twice that at the time.
Yeah.
So it was a way to get the voters to actually vote for something other than just saying no. Whether it was the best way or not, I'm not going to dispute that it couldn't be looked at and maybe refined, but that is how it came about.
Yeah.
Our voters were very stingy.
Yeah, but to me, it was just a thought that maybe we've corrected the problem. And now maybe we can bring it back home. So.
Larry, did you have some topics you want?
I don't have anything
Okay.
additional, no.
I know.
I have one, sorry, I read the charter as well, but not all of it.
Yeah, if I can say, I did the same thing that Dan did and started reading that and went, what the heck is this? Yeah,
But unlike you, I wasn't smart enough to stop. I plowed through it all and I'm like, okay, I know I do not want to interfere with the sheriff's working dog.
Anyway,
Problem.
the one that got me, and this was on the last charter, let's see. How was it phrased? Oh, too many pieces of paper. It was, what it says here is Measure G, amend section 503 of the charter to give the county executive officer final authority for the appointment, suspension, and removal of appointed department heads. as a former general manager, the idea that I would have a department head that I could in theory assign work to and not be able to hold them strictly responsible to do the work that I've assigned because they have a friend in high places is preposterous. You can't run an organization like that. I realize this was voted down by the voters last time, and I think it's because it was phrased poorly. You know, I think the phrasing ought to be not, shall we remove the authority of the supervisors, but it should be, shall we require county staff to be strictly accountable to the county executive officer for the performance of their assigned duties? I think that's, anyway, so that's the only topic that I have, and I think that there's a way of phrasing that that's much more likely to get over approval.
Thank you. Troy?
Thank you. I'd just like to echo what Board Member Jansen and Woodward brought up. I believe those are, you know, suggestions and recommendations into things that we should definitely explore. I have a particular interest in some of the language I don't actually see because I know I've read it. I've read over the charter multiple times, and it's you know, preamble, it describes us as being a home rule charter. And there's perhaps I can leverage general counsel here to elaborate more on the exact legal you know, scope of what that is. But I believe, and at least in my personal interpretation, is very important towards the things that we may want to look into, especially when it came to the suggestions about we can't directly address RENA, but we do want to do something potentially that can give the board enough power and feeling like whether I understand this term to be comedy. It's comedy with the T, not comedy. It's a social harmony concept in which, you know, we can come up with our own way of doing things while still maintaining social harmony with the state. And I believe that government is about checks and balances. So it's not a one-way street. And obviously our ability to give the board some power or leverage in a checks and balances fashion that can, whether it's a new department or a committee that can then be the way of a stepping stone back to the state when it's pushing back on RENA numbers. That would be a huge desire of mine in terms of an investigation for us and whether that's feasible or not. I totally agree with the idea of like how we go about paying the supervisors, that being a key function, term limits in particular. I'm obviously really like the idea of, you know, 3 at the most potentially, but some of the other nuances that came around with, you know, taking a break before being able to come back into government, all really important. But also one other thing is, and I'll ask general counsel this, were the districts of the county defined by the state, the 5, or did we actually come up with that? And I kind of bring this up because there's been rumblings that like Tahoe obviously wants to maybe do their own thing, but obviously maybe some sort of reevaluation if we for some reason wanted to have more supervisors as part of what the charter provides for that, you know, obviously new districting possibly comes along with it. It's been in place for a long time. And is it relevant to the current needs of the county? And that would just be something to put up for us to potentially discuss based upon the current, you know, playing field of what the county is doing.
Okay, may I, I live in the city of Roseville, and Roseville has term limits. You can serve 2 terms. And I think that it has hurt the city of Roseville to have term limits. And the reason is because you don't just deal with Roseville, you deal with a whole bunch of other folks within the region. There are joint powers agreements, there are lots of other governmental functions besides the running of the county or the running of the city. It may be different from the county, I'm not sure. But Roseville always fields rookies to those other organizations. And so the other organizations that you're partnered with, like SACOG, for example, which I understand the county's not a part of, they've got people that have long tenured, and the long tenured people run the organization, and the rookies always get the short end of the stick. So I understand the desire to have, well, I mean, term limits got real popular for a while, and we've got them in various locations. We got them in the city of Roseville. But it's a two-edged sword. And if we're going to look at term limits, we need to make sure we look at the disadvantages of term limits. That's all.
That's good, Einar. I think we'll kind of honor Troy's request, and we'll see what county comes up with some language, and we can talk more about
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Awesome. I have a couple of points, and the downside of being chair is you have to go last and people steal your thunder, but that's okay. Because I do align with actually several comments made. I was shocked and disheartened by no number in our own charter for supervisor pay. That we kind of give that to our neighboring, if everyone just says, we'll look at the neighboring counties, then no one will have a number. And I agree that we should own that. We should own that. So just supporting what was said there. Also, the governor reference 60 days. I really like where that's headed. And then I have a request. How difficult would it be to send this group the neighboring charters, the actual charter that the neighbors have?
I don't see that.
Okay.
You're speaking specifically for the other counties that we have the average salary with?
Yes.
Supervisors?
Can we see their charters?
And I don't know which ones have the charter and which ones do not.
And the three that are referenced are chartered counties?
I think that's what
I think I found Sacramento, I found Fresno and a couple other ones, but
El Dorado and Sacramento are charter county. That is.
Can we get a
Gotcha.
copy of those? I think that would be helpful. And then the residency requirement for elected officials, I'm really interested to know more about language and thoughts about what neighboring charters are doing for residency requirements. I think we have a real minimal, which, I don't know quite how I feel about that, but I'd love a discussion from this group about residency requirements. And then I also align with Einar's request about department head appointments and the termination. There was a reference about county executive having that authority, but I'm very interested in pursuing some more things about that. And that's all that I had right now.
I have additional question more for Cal. What establishes, what constitutes validation of where the county seat is? In other words, I know the charter says it shall be where it is, and it was in Auburn. We know that. But what does that mean? Does that mean the Board of Supervisors have to have their home office in there? What is the seat of government?
It is something that we'll need to take some research on my part. There is actually a state statute that sets it. The county seat in Auburn. And that statute was actually implemented before Auburn got incorporated.
Yeah.
So it refers to the greater Auburn area because there was no city of Auburn in the statute. I believe that means that's where meetings need to be held, the general meetings of the board. But I don't, and then there's other statutory requirements that certain departments need to be based. But all of
I'm curious about that.
Okay.
But yeah. I also wanted to touch on one other thing, Troy, you had asked a question about districts and whether they're defined by the state.
That's right. Yeah.
They actually are, there is a state redistricting process that
Gotcha.
sets the districts, that goes every 10 years. And we went from 2021, so it'll come back up.
It's more like a census after the census comes
It's
through,
based
it's
on the census, the
population.
requirements,
Yeah.
kind of the configuration of it. There is no requirement though as to the number of supervisors, so this did come up before. If there is an interest in or concern about Tahoe and the vote being diluted in Tahoe.
Yeah.
There was a discussion last time about maybe increasing the number of supervisors, which is certainly within the charter's authority. So then you could add a supervisor that is kind of expressed to Tahoe. The downside of that, of course, though, is then it's 1 of 6 instead
That's
of
right.
1 of 5. So there are pros and cons, but that may be a way to get at that issue.
So if we go exceed the number of districts that we have with supervisors, do the extra supervisors, are they just at large? They can be from any of the districts?
So we would have to, I assume we would have to then next redistricting or maybe at the time of adding
Population,
supervisors,
sure.
we'll have to kind of rerun the districts so that they're proportionate in
Yeah,
population.
right, yeah, okay.
So Clayton, just to add, Troy, Dan and I were part of the redistricting last time at the planning commission. We were commissioned by the board of supervisors. And one of the issues is as the population of Roseville and Rockland and Lincoln grow, it actually population wise expands how large the territory Tahoe would have to have.
That's right.
And so that's the challenge. If we add a supervisor, it's gonna probably expand the territory and not really isolate someone just in Tahoe, for example. It would be really challenging.
Yeah.
So,
So, I watched the redistricting process that the county and got involved in, or did. And I didn't know that the planning commission was heavily involved. I think I saw it after you guys were done and the county then took it over.
mhm.
And then they did what they wanted to do. I mean, is it accurate to say they largely ignored your recommendations?
We went with a map that was designed from the community and they upheld that.
Yeah.
So they actually,
Oh, they stuck pretty close.
They took one of
Yeah.
our, I think.
One of
gave them a
our-
Couple of recommendations.
a community designed map that wasn't designed by, a county official. So the community was really involved. That took a lot.
There's a big
I
discussion
appreciate
about
that.
whether or not they should farm this out to a third party or flick it to the planning commission.
Yeah.
Ultimately, they gave it to the planning commission to run. So it was,
Yeah.
Yeah, so the state went to a redistricting commission. They,
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
got appointed and the legislature, I don't think, has the authority to change the way the state legislative districts are
Right.
drawn.
Yeah.
I don't have an opinion whether that's a good idea or a bad idea in Placer County.
Yeah.
But currently, it's the Board of Supervisors gets to decide what the districts are.
Yes, they have ultimate decision.
That's generally true for all local jurisdictions in California.
I will say though, this has been a push to the state level to remove that local control or
great.
determination as to what the districts would be. And that was something we ran into at that time, that there is, the way the statutes were worded, it recommended that we use an independent redistricting commission. But then there was an ultimate board decision to go with the planning commission as that commission instead. But I don't know if that opportunity will be around for the next redistricting cycle. You see a lot of the bills that get passed for redistricting right before that cycle comes, so you may see something there.
Well, but the board wasn't bound by what the planning commission recommended. What they asked for was a recommendation. And
They-
they exercised their authority.
The cities.
Yeah.
So was that compelling public interest coming from a judicial side or a
Yeah.
legislative?
Right there.
Legislative, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but our board of supervisors pay a lot of attention to community involvement though. And you will see as we go through the process that people who are very vocal will start getting their ear.
Mhm.
Yeah. Jim Holmes didn't quite get there.
If we're kind of done with discussion, I think we can move on to the next agenda item if everyone's,
You mind if I just summarize what I heard?
yeah, and then we'll open public comment, right? Okay. Yeah.
So a couple follow-up items, not necessarily, related to changes to the charter that we're gonna look into is any state requirements and judicial actions, that the committee should be aware of. Look into the community plan authority, research and understand a little bit better the county seat. Provide charters of the surrounding counties that we have salary averages with. And then as far as specific to the charter items go, I have term limits for supervisors, the supervisor's salary, the appointment process for vacated supervisors, the CEO's authority to appoint, suspend, or terminate, appointed department heads, more information related to home rules, specifically allowing the supervisors to have additional authority, for example, state requirements, like a new department or committee, allowing more power and leverage for the supervisors. Residency requirements for elected officials and how other jurisdictions handle that. And I believe that is all I have on my list. Did I miss anything that we should include?
Anyone? You got mine.
I think that, I just want to make sure that supervisor salary is kind of a broad term. It's not about the number per se. It's really about the process.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. And just to be clear, on each of these, staff's going to evaluate and provide an analysis of, the full breadth of that section, and what potential changes could be.
What do you think
Okay.
your time frame is?
You need a public comment.
Yes.
As far as timeline, I don't know, just based on the amount of homework that we might have. However, as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we intend to send out a letter to the department heads asking for additional issues. So there might be additional issues that come up that you want to evaluate as a committee as well. So the plan would be to have at least an initial report at the next meeting and to also include all those department concerns or issues that may get raised. So I don't know if it's reasonable or not, and I know we're talking about future agenda items or future meetings scheduled on item 7, but I would assume anywhere between 30 and 60 days to get that initial analysis back to the committee.
Okay.
But we can surely get those that are done sooner.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, is that
Well, you don't have to collectively have them all
It would
done.
be.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna open up public comment. If other things are shared, we can discuss more, but I'm gonna open up public comment. Anyone online or? Let me start with here in person. Anyone here in person like to share?
I just have a question while I stepped out. Was there any conversation about the changing the county superintendent from elected to appointed?
Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah.
Was there any was as a potential topic to move forward to the supervisors? Was there any conversation about changing the
No.
county superintendent from elected to appointed?
No, we did not talk about that. But we'll discuss that here after
No,
I,
we don't want that.
okay.
Oh. Well, now you planted it in our
Oh,
mind.
no.
I know.
Okay.
Okay.
How am I gonna get it out of my brain?
Yeah.
Sounded
Okay.
like that's what you were asking for.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, excellent. We did
Make
not
sure
talk about that.
doesn't happen.
But
It's
I'm
like,
used to.
want to avoid appointments as much as possible.
I don't think I've been. A public comment's been where I'm glad you haven't talked about something. I don't know if that's happened
Yeah.
before, but any other, anyone online?
Yes.
Okay,
Greetings again, Diane Louise Alessi here from Christian Valley Park. I just want to add in, because I sit on the board of a special district, LAFCO oversees the redistricting for all intents and purposes. So if say for instance, we wanted to annex in a property, so on and so forth, we would have to go through the process with LAFCO. Just want to throw that out there for anybody who doesn't know that. And then I just had an epiphany about perhaps this committee could consider putting staff on say you're going to have your key items that you want to look at for your review and possible recommendation. Perhaps you put that out in the public for a survey and get kind of a consensus and or feedback on those items before you actually do a submission to the Board of Supervisors. I would like to personally see that. And thirdly, I just really have to emphasize that there's a huge difference between when council first made the remark that general charter is not the same as home rule charter. And there's only 14 counties holding home rule. And that is such a key point because in 2000, we didn't have the pain of RENA until the governor signed that in 2019. We had 5 other cycles come through, but it was when he said it was a home or the statewide concern is what threw us out of our California constitutional bucket into the general charter. So that's what I just wanted to clarify. And thank you all for your hard work. I yield.
Is that within the power of the committee right now to be able to do a type of survey, or is this actually something we would have to recommend for future committees to be able to do?
Survey of what?
Of our items for recommendation before they ultimately make their way to the board.
I was waiting until we got to the right point because, rather than, I think we need to think about how we go to the community first, rather than thinking about sharing with them what we're finally recommending. And then we can get to that point because I think that if you announce the fact that you're going to be in District 1, District 2, District 3, at least you can have a clear conscience about.
Are there others?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
No,
You
continue. I
can,
was
yeah,
just-
you can have a clear conscious effort of going to the community, seeking input.
Right.
When the recommendations were made last time, there was a lot of people that were remote when the items were shared. And I have to tell you that it made us as a committee look really good when we talked about the process that we went through to get input from others. It wasn't just from us.
Right.
Yeah, well, let me close public comment and we can continue to discuss this item, but I think in our setting of our meetings, maybe we can address what we want to do proceeding. Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Good chair.
Yeah.
Briefly, I did want to respond.
Please.
So as you made,
Okay.
I think it's worth clarifying. There's 58 counties in the state. Of those, 14 of them are governed by a charter. The other ones are general law. Those ones that are governed by a charter, there is a distinction between a home rule charter and a general charter. It's either you have a charter or you don't.
Mhm.
All charters have it in your home rule authority. But I just wanted to.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
that's helpful. Okay, we'll move to item 7, which talking about future meeting schedules. How should we do this, Ben?
Yeah, so this is a little open-ended,
Okay.
just based on the charter requirements. As Clayton mentioned, 2 public meetings are required. So technically, from the requirements of the charter, we could provide you the analysis of what you identified today. You could take action in the next public meeting and we could go to the board with recommendations. Alternatively, and what's happened in past practice, as Ms. Walker has mentioned, is the committee has done some level of a roadshow, at least going to each of our regions, being East Placer, West Placer, Mid Placer, or specific districts, going to all 5 of the districts to get community input. So there's quite a bit there, so that's why I didn't want to presuppose this
Yeah,
committee and kind of try and set up a future meeting schedule
Yeah.
just based upon the level of comfortability you all have for the next meeting and kind of the intent and the purpose of that next meeting. I would just mention, regardless of where we go next and what the intention of the board is, I would ask for at least kind of probably about a 60-day in between this meeting and the next meeting to make sure
Okay.
that we have valuation complete that we can report back to you all.
Okay, July.
Is any meeting that we have required to be a public meeting?
Yes.
Yes, it's a Brown Act body.
Okay,
All-
so I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, I mean, we need some time to we need to give the staff time, 60 days, let's say. And then we need to get together in a public meeting to assess what the staff presents.
Uh, think of it this way, is that this is also an opportunity to get more input as to what we should be thinking about. Unfortunately, there may be some other items that could be added to the list for future review.
Right.
And then some of them are not under our purview, but at least you're hearing from others in the community. So it's not just, the way, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, Clayton, the way this process works is, when we went through it, and I don't know previously, it wasn't just based on what we wanted to do.
That's right.
It was based on what, or people who had knowledge of the meeting
Yeah,
and were monitoring it and could show up. So
absolutely.
when you start giving notice that we're gonna be in a certain area, I think more people hear it.
Yeah.
So that sounds like we're talking about a meeting, another public meeting here to talk about what the specific recommendations we've already put forth, the staff has to say about that. And then we go on a fact finding mission to, let's say, 5 districts, I guess.
Is there any-
Why couldn't our first one
Yeah.
be fact
Yeah,
finding?
it could be.
Yeah,
Well, it
Combine
could
it,
be.
yeah.
yeah.
I would like this, but well, I
Combine- just
suppose that would
combine
work.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that might
yeah.
work.
And it'll help us think a little bit differently about what we're putting out there too, because there could be other ways of looking at these items.
It would be nice though. Okay, I suppose that would
Yeah.
work. We just need to give this, I need to understand what the staff's gonna put forward. So if we get a staff report of some sort, as we did with the planning commission ahead of time, that would be great. If we don't have that, then we're gonna be
Right,
surprised.
No, not-
totally agree on that.
Not necessarily, because I think people appreciate being on the upfront process in terms of providing input.
Yeah.
They feel like they're a part of the process. If we're thinking that we're gonna go out there and, by the way, we've already talked about 20 of these items and here's the answer, it may not be received well.
Well, I think what I would like in that scenario is, we don't have to meet to. I would want to see that staff report, say a week before we met, so we had an opportunity to go through, understand the responses. We're that much more prepared when we get to that meeting, so we're not sitting at the meeting being presented the staff report and we've got 20 pages of material.
Yeah.
Well,
That's useless to me,
right,
frankly.
and that's a public document.
Yeah.
So it gets published,
It could be,
gets
yeah.
put out, and then people see it, review it, and decide if they want to go to the meeting or
Absolutely.
not. Or they want to say, hey, we need to, for some reason, they were saying no to term limits, or they're saying it doesn't sound like a good idea, whatever.
Well,
We
I
want to
guess
comment on that.
I have a question to you, Ben, in particular, since you're kind of running staff. If we meet more frequently than what you guys are currently allotting for as time to just be able to culminate all the research. But it's giving us an opportunity to collect as much, like, obviously we can take a break to be able to allow for you guys to catch up. Is that like a methodology that actually works for your staff to kind of be able to meet with the public as much as possible here, to do as much intake and then give a little bit of a break to then kind of synthesize and bring everything together and homogenize it into like potential resolutions?
Yeah, I would say that is absolutely something that the committee could do. One concern that I would have is if we do not provide some level of analysis in between the meetings, and we do go to each of the districts and then provide an analysis after the fact to the committee, there may be a desire from the committee or a desire from the public to then hear kind of what those outcomes of all those
Absolutely.
issues are.
Mm-hmm.
Which would mean maybe duplicative efforts going out to each committee multiple times, which again, based on the structure of the committee or the charter, that is within your purview to do. It would just be a lot more of a commitment.
Well,
But won't-
and that's where I was
But
going.
won't the public have access to the documents that we're gonna get as a way of finding out what's going on?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so it's
Right
not,
on that.
yeah, it's not like they won't have an opportunity to view what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I was thinking about this is that ideally, and we may need to decide ideally is not practical, is you would go out and invite people to provide input. And then we would have to sort of sift through this and come up with what we would call our draft recommendations. And then we would then go back out and present the draft to folks and allow them to comment on it
Yeah.
before we came back and decided on a final set of recommendations.
Couple bites at the apple.
Yeah, right.
And I, you know, I appreciate that you went districts last time. I think the east, west, middle.
Yeah,
you know,
I
are
don't
not
think that
that
that's
bearable.
necessarily a requirement because honestly, the attendance was off and on. And I think that that was the extreme, in terms of going out. But I think that we're gonna run into some real time crunches if we're thinking about going out multiple times. I think that if we
Well, I think
allow
time
for.
crunches are
If
absolutely-
when we're out there, if we tell people, this is where the information is gonna be available, they're gonna be reading the same information that we're gonna get. And I don't think that we're gonna add any additional value if we're going back out to report out on what we got from staff.
Right.
So you don't think the second round?
I
is
don't,
necessary?
I'm open for discussion, but I just,
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask a question because Clayton, you said this meeting was designed in person. But we made accommodations, I think, because someone wasn't able to be here. Can future meetings be available for people to attend virtually? Cause I'm comfortable with that. I think it would be show,
yeah.
I am
Good.
not. That woman who spoke, I do not have her name. I could not understand her saying her own name.
okay, I can help with that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, somebody got it and, you know, but my point is that, gosh, I think the business of government should be done with people sitting around a table.
Okay, let me see, maybe it's not possible, but.
It was an
Oh,
ADA accommodation. She's
This meeting
disabled.
was set up
Hmm?
because.
She's disabled, so
in
she
the
can't
form
be
that
there.
it was
Yeah.
because that's the.
Oh, no, I understood she had an issue.
Meeting.
Yeah,
But certainly, the charter meeting can decide the forum that it wants to meet in. So if you decide that you want to have some access for purposes.
okay, so if we were gonna plan this west, middle, east meeting schedule.
Yeah.
On a timeline, and then we right now tentatively schedule a final meeting that's available virtually. So everyone can listen and be part of and participate. What do you guys think about at least brainstorming a possibility of 4 more meetings, which we can change, right?
Mhm.
Ben, can we change this if
Correct.
we're going through it and we're like, this isn't working?
Yeah.
And what if we tentatively schedule 4 more meetings and we do a west, middle, east order? I think that's important.
In,
You
in
can
in
share
east,
why.
we're basically saying the lake, right? I
Yeah.
think.
Kings,
Quick clarification.
Kings Beach.
Would today be the mid, or you're thinking?
No,
No.
4 more.
Yeah. So 4 more meetings and then a final meeting here available online. What do you guys think about
That
that?
final meeting is the fourth meeting, right?
The
Yeah.
5th.
That's a fifth meeting?
Well,
Yeah.
if you include today.
4 more.
No, 3 plus 1.
Oh, I got it.
Sorry.
Yeah,
yeah.
Why wouldn't we just make all 4 of those online?
Yeah, I'm good with that too.
Is there a challenge to?
I personally
Or
want to
does-
hear as many public members as possible. You know, people
I'm good with that.
sometimes they're at work or
Yeah.
whatever and they still want to be able to attend. They just can't sit in the audience for
We
hours
also
on end and
have
be able to
a
talk.
Significant older population.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Can they all be made, future meetings be made available online?
Yes,
Okay.
I think so.
Is there a logistics issue? Or
I need to
is it?
check.
They have internet.
Is it a
right now.
camera thing? Is it an audio thing? We're
Well,
doing it
They
now.
did this without a camera.
Yeah,
I've
we
been
could
to
be-
the lake many times.
Be able to
with-
secure
with-
screens, because
with
like I know that
camera.
in some of the previous like board of supervisors, they had like a way of seeing like who's talking,
Yeah,
like their
yeah.
name.
Oh, yeah.
That's the obstacle, is whether the location we
Same
have,
thing today.
we go to has the capability.
Oh, okay.
Having.
Yeah.
uh,
But this is
IT
part of the setup.
infrastructure that we.
Right, right.
We can use
Yeah.
We can
council
certainly set
chambers.
up a Zoom meeting here,
Mhm.
Okay.
and, depending on availability, wherever the location's chosen.
Okay.
I just, you know,
If we are doing Zoom meetings, so I was trying to make sure I'm saying, would that be an in-person and Zoom meeting for each?
Yeah.
Of the
Yeah.
regions?
Mhm.
or
Not-
at least audio. When you say Zoom, I think video. Right, at least audio.
Theoretically, it might have been able to work today with that projector on the screen. But again,
We would have
once,
to figure it out.
Yeah, but it'd have to be two-way.
Well,
Yeah,
that's right.
we know this works. We know this works and we've done we've done them up
We've
at
done it a lot.
Tahoe.
Okay, so I
Although
think,
that's not easy. I get that.
Ben,
Uh,
Ben,
but-
go ahead.
Yeah, just one other difficulty, if all the meetings are online, and if we post the agenda and say that you are able to come to the meeting or you're able to attend
Right.
virtually. And if there is a technology issue and nobody can attend virtually.
Yeah.
I believe there is a Brown Act issue there in which the committee may have to be re-notified in the future.
Yeah, so you have that problem if you set it up with a Zoom meeting link as part of the agenda. If in fact we have some sort of technological issue.
Oh.
then we're delayed.
Oh.
you have to
Well, wait,
renotice the whole meeting.
that means we can't vote on something, but we could still meet, no? No, that kills the meeting altogether.
If you notice it.
That was part of the.
Why- but I don't-
reason as to why we.
Okay.
We do this all the time. That's-
Yeah, I think it's important enough. So the recommendation, I think that I'll suggest, and you guys cannot, is, you guys can agree or not, but I think we have 5 total meetings. This is one today, 4 more with online capability for those that can't be in person. And then the final meeting back here for sharing of our findings, and we'll adjust as we go forward. But I also think it's important how we agendize
Mhm.
that. And so would it be the same agenda item as number 6? That would allow the public to be able to share new ideas and thoughts?
Not necessarily. And
Okay.
I will coordinate directly with the chair of this committee and make
Okay.
sure that the agenda is appropriate for those following meetings.
Mhm,
That's
mhm.
great, because I don't want a conversation, hey, you can only speak on public comment if it's not on the agenda, and people confused about when they
Yeah,
can and when they can't.
Right.
Because that's really problematic for people that take time out of their day to show up. And I would want it early in the agenda so that people aren't waiting for hours and hours and hours
Yeah.
to share their thoughts. And so I think that's important.
I just had one
So-
more.
What, yeah, so,
Can we get each other's emails?
Yeah.
okay, question for the chair.
Yeah.
So I understand about the 4 additional meetings. We're gonna get information. And as we go out and get more input, we're gonna be asking for more information.
Yeah.
Are we going to discuss the information that we've gotten so far at
Mhm.
any of these meetings?
Yes.
Or does it all wait to the last meeting
The way-
before?
Yes, good point. Yes, we will discuss and have a staff report before each meeting with the new items. And then the public will hear at those locations what the staff is presenting that's new.
Mhm.
And they'll be able to read and review the previous reports. And so my understanding is staff will have a presentation about the items that were brought up from the previous meeting with new topics. And then we'll discuss, we'll open public comment on those,
Mhm.
and the public will give feedback.
Good, good.
Yes.
Same thing we always do. But is this doable from your perspective?
Yeah.
Yes.
it is.
Okay, great. Then
The-
that's
the
it.
one- The one question that I would have for the committee is the location of the next meeting, specific, not address, but region.
Yeah.
It's
see,
west, east.
It seems to me that
West.
this is fine for the central one. It would seem to me we could, and we know this works.
Yeah.
Tahoe is Tahoe, right? So that's the east. And I don't have a clue about the west.
What
Roseville,
about,
Rockland.
what
City
about
Council.
the other government buildings in Rockland right off?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Since-
I'm sure we can find a location. Specifically, I'm looking for the next meeting.
I think
which region?
west.
West, so that's Roseville.
I think it's easier to notify that region. It's easier for people to get to a place. They'll probably bring up some really good topics.
Yeah,
And then there will be a lot of energy in the east. And so I think headed to the east, we should be aware of a lot of topics already discussed. We can point to things that have been reviewed.
Right.
I think it would be a healthy thing to go to the east last.
And then the last comment that I have, just understanding we're short on time, would be for these following meetings, I'll try my best to coordinate with all to make sure that there is availability, but you have to remember that we are now going to be securing a location and making sure staff can attend those locations for the IT and technology support as well. So we are gonna be limited on dates and times, so
Mhm.
there is a likely scenario in which not all of you will be available for those
Mhm.
meetings.
Would you like us to maybe give you dates that we're on vacation, something that at least helps you
Yeah, that would be
pick a
great.
red zone in your calendars?
Yeah, and that way I can look to see if we have a majority of the committee for whatever reason on specific days that are not available.
Are we still looking at 60 days out?
Give or take, just
Okay.
depending on.
And I want,
Well, I actually looked to the chair if 60 days makes sense for them.
yeah, July.
Okay.
I want everyone there, but a quorum is 4. Is that right?
Mhm.
So, and then, meetings in the evening. Like after, like 5, 6, something like that, so people
Five,
can be
yeah.
there.
6 is good.
6.
We'll
What do you
drive.
guys think about that? 6
I'm fine with
o'clock,
that.
What's that?
6 o'clock meetings.
Would
So
be
the
better public attendance
can
as well.
attend.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So this is
Okay.
another area where I'm just going, I wish I could give you a direct answer right this second, but I am gonna have to coordinate with quickly the board staff. and
Of
IT
course.
Staff to make sure that that's something that they can.
Yeah,
accommodate.
and my only comment on that is our supervisors don't meet at 6 o'clock at night,
Correct.
nor do our planning commissioners.
Yeah.
And,
Hmm.
it's a problem.
you know, we, we're placing a burden on the staff. And I'm not confident, frankly, that I agree with you. Yeah, on the east side, we may get a lot, but we had 2 people here today and 1 online.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're kind of leaping over an ant mountain, I think. So,
Is that overtime for staff?
Depending on the classification of that
Okay.
employee. There is the potential for that. There's also the potential, just from a compensation standpoint, that there might be overnight stay required at that point. There
Okay.
might be some
Mhm.
additional cost
Yeah.
if you're asking for staff to
Okay.
stay there.
Okay.
Do we
I guess.
generally try to stay on like a 2-hour schedule? Or is it, because we're gonna more or less have many topics to cover, so it could just be open-ended in terms of how the length of time, right?
Yeah, and that's really at the discretion. of
Curious
the-
if there was any marketing of this.
And also
Yeah.
success
Yeah.
of the-
Because I'm a person, but want every point.
Yeah,
Just stick it
yeah.
in the
Yeah.
newsletter.
Yeah.
We've been on forever.
I should
Make
mention
that
though, I think when
request.
we went to Tahoe last charter,
Mhm,
review,
mhm.
it was only 2.
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
3.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There wasn't a whole lot of public participation.
Right.
I think it's, when you put this out, I would suggest that you try to provide a paragraph or 2 on the true scope of the charter,
Yeah.
so that people
Yes.
understand that it would be a great idea to direct the county supervisors to fight the state on every possible issue imaginable. But that's not gonna happen here.
Exactly.
So, if we articulate what the scope of this charter is, I think it might help people understand it. And they'll come in if they really have something that applies. We'll see.
That's good. I can read that.
Great to work with us, so that we can look at it.
Well, what I'll do is I'll read that scope
Yeah.
before each meeting
Yeah.
as the chair and make sure
That's
that,
perfect.
and I can refer back to it and
Yeah.
say, that's a great idea, you want to reach out to, we'll give them contacts and
Yeah.
people to reach out to. But we'll try to direct that.
Half these issues would trigger some responses if they were,
If they knew.
if this was marketed and said, here's the topic that they've already identified,
Mhm.
Yeah, a lot of people like.
Yeah.
term limits.
Yeah, it's gonna be super popular until
supervisors
people
get
really
paid.
think about
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Then they go,
Is there, I don't know, is there a 4th rod you could hit on?
yeah, supervisor pay.
What if
Yeah,
you
that's
go
gonna be
after social
exciting.
security money, right?
Okay, yeah.
If I could just say, personally, I'm, maybe we have to vote on this, I don't know, but I'm comfortable with 4 meetings. It sounds like that's a good plan. My personal opinion is that we should do it during the duty day so that the staff is less burdened by it. And I don't personally believe, given the fact the supervisors already set the example, planning commission sets the example, that we have to look at, especially things like overnight stays in Tahoe,
Yeah,
for 3 people, probably.
I
So,
mean, if I may make the recommendation that, the latest we start is like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Then maybe there's the potential there that we don't overburden the staff.
And
If we
you
can
know,
obviously start earlier, that's great, but
And since we're proposing that all the meetings be online, you can have one that is potentially later. So if somebody's really interested, they have an opportunity to have a voice.
Yeah,
That's true.
that kind of covers our you know, if we end up making a recommendation, this goes before the voters. We don't want to undermine that process by
Exactly.
people going back and
Yeah.
saying, that was not a
Oh, yeah,
good
exactly,
commission process.
exactly.
I didn't have access, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
That little bit of variety, or at least, it's a good point. Most businesses done before 5 o'clock. You could counter that most of the people, well, I was gonna say a lot of the people standing before the board and the planning commission are professionals, but a lot of people aren't too.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, my motivator for the 6 o'clock is the public
Mhm.
participation and not staff pay.
Mhm.
But I think it's important enough to see, maybe we accommodate one with
Yeah,
highlighted online
Right,
interaction. I
right.
think if we can do something
yeah.
where people have access and after 5,
Mhm,
I think it'd be just a good faith effort
mhm.
from this committee to hear from people.
Cause I'm gonna tell you, it did diffuse a lot of discussion when the board was covering our recommendations when they heard the process that we went through. And if they only knew that, even though we went to all of these districts and, in some of them, 2 people showed up, I think that they would understand the reason why we're doing this. But I think that the fail-safe methods of the online participation and offering up one meeting, I think that will go a long way.
Totally agree.
So I do think we're close to a point of a vote on this. May have missed something.
I think-
but,
Do we need to
Go ahead.
vote on this?
I do think it's important that you're all on the same page.
Mhm.
So, what I heard was 4 meetings, with Zoom if possible. We are still checking to see if we have light capability, because we don't do Zoom meetings now, so I gotta check on that on the technological side, but, 4 meetings. The first 3 meetings will be west, middle, east, but maybe not in that order. The west meeting would be the first meeting, and I heard some comments about potentially in Rockland. Then there would be a
Mhm.
final meeting. The attendance time for those meetings would be sometime after 2 PM, but one of those meetings would be at 5 PM or later. And then in the scope for, the agenda for each meetings, there would be a paragraph or 2 in the scope of the charter.
Yeah.
Did I
Yes.
catch it? Did I miss anything in terms of?
I move that.
I would
Second.
I would suggest that the late meeting be the one in the west so that
Yeah.
we don't have to spend overnight at Tahoe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a good
That's
suggestion.
just a suggestion, great.
Right, so the web
Good
meeting
night,
is
anyway.
5 o'clock.
Yeah. And if we're gonna be after 5, is 6 better?
I think it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would say not before 5:30 because
Okay.
people get
Right.
off work at 5.
Okay.
that, you
That's
know,
right.
That doesn't.
Traffic.
I would agree that 6 o'clock, if we're gonna do a late meeting, 6 o'clock is probably a better
Okay.
time.
Good
So the west meeting being at 6 o'clock.
And I would also just throw my 2 cents out. I think this 3 o'clock format works fine.
Mhm.
For the other meetings, it's,
3 instead of 2?
yeah, I mean, it's late enough in the afternoon that people, if they need to, can probably get off work an hour or 2
Yeah.
early and do something
Sure.
if they needed to.
Yeah.
you know.
School's out, school's out.
The one final clarification, I agree that audio work and Zoom is a little bit more problematic from a technical perspective. And I don't know that that's necessary. I mean,
I agree.
if we're gonna have them available online, can we, you said Zoom, but I've also heard the audio
Yeah.
is good enough. And that way, everybody's got a phone, and they can call.
Yeah. Yeah.
Audio does it for me.
I was fine with audio as well.
Yeah, we've been, well, that may be something where we have to get back to. I would say in general, getting the public up to speed with audio only is a little more difficult, because then it's pushing buttons on the phone. People are kind of
That's right.
lost as to when they're supposed to speak. So we have found if we are doing that, Zoom is a little bit easier in terms of the.
Good
public
point.
being
What did
able
we
to-
do today?
Yeah, what is today? It's what?
It's on Zoom.
Oh, it is Zoom,
It's
okay.
on Zoom today.
And she's a veteran. She does this all the time. So
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
Okay.
they call her to ask her how to do it.
But yeah,
okay.
we will figure that out on our end.
Okay,
When we have capabilities.
okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
So,
But
like it.
we'll need them-
Yeah.
We got a first and a second.
We do? Okay, let's do a roll call
Dan.
vote.
As amended.
Let's do a
Yes.
roll call vote.
Aye. Johnson,
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Mathew,
Aye.
Yes. Okay, well, that does it for our meeting today. I'm gonna go ahead and adjourn our first meeting. Great job, guys.
Good job.
I don't have a gavel, but.
Fine job, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.